The 2023 college football season is over, but I wanted to do one last thing before I look on to next season, and that's a 68-team March Madness-like single elimination tournament simulation. I found 11 sources ranking every team's 2023 campaign from 1 to 133. Also, I added my final top 25 as well as the AP and coaches poll for a total of 14 rankings on the spreadsheet. Then I gathered the median of all of the sources, and that's how I formed the seed line. I used the median rather than the average to eliminate the influences of outliers, and I will link this spreadsheet in the description below. This allowed me to create a seed line, which will show up on the screen right here. And the leftmost teams on the screen are the best teams for their respective seed line. So the bracket is divided into 4 regions: East, Midwest, South, and West, just like how it is in March Madness today. The best team in each seed line will go to the region of the bracket closest to them. The next team will go to the closest region of the 3 remaining regions to pick from, and so on. That means the 4th team in the seed line has no say in where they go. This process will continue until all teams have found a spot in the bracket, and without further ado, here are the brackets. So I assigned the New Year's Six Bowls to each of the 4 regions. The Rose and the Peach Bowl will have the semifinals like they did in the 2023 season. So that means the 4 remaining New Year's Six Bowls will be host to the finals of each of these regions. The South will have the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. The West will have the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale. The East will have the Orange Bowl in Miami, and the Midwest will have the Cotton Bowl in Arlington. But for now, we're going to jump into the play-in matches. And though in March Madness, half the play-in matches are for the 16 seed, and half of them are for like the 11 or 12 seeds, in this case, we're going to have all of them for the 16 seeds just so it's fair, because all of those minor conferences in Division I college basketball aren't in the FBS for football. So how we did the play-in matches is that the top 4 teams, obviously the best teams, went to each of the 4 locations first, and they will be the home team. And then the bottom 4 teams will go to the 4 locations as the away team. In these play-in matches, you'll see Boston College and Jacksonville State, Minnesota hitting the road to San Jose State, UCF hosting Washington State, and South Alabama hosting TCU. Should be a fun one. Let's start this tournament and see who comes out on top. So we're going to start with our first 4 matchups. Jacksonville State holds off Boston College by 10 points. Minnesota upsets San Jose State. They win on the road 38-31, big 4th quarter for them. Washington State moves past UCF in overtime, 31-28. They scored the overtime period's lone 3 points. And then TCU, South Alabama, that game also went to overtime. TCU scored a field goal, but the Jaguars scored a touchdown to move past the Horned Frogs. They win 37-34. Here's your updated bracket. Not much of note is different. It's definitely going to be a bloodbath seeing all of these teams try to fight it out to be the champion. But let's see who comes out on top. First round, Michigan beats Jacksonville State 49-24, allowing more points than they probably wanted to. West Virginia moves past Duke in overtime, 20-17. Tennessee moves past Rutgers, 27-7. Appalachian State, the video's first major upset over Penn State, 33-27. The Mountaineers are really known to pull off upsets over Power 5 teams. They did it again in the simulation over Penn State. It'll be interesting to see how far that this team can go. But we have to move on. Kentucky beats Liberty, 35-28. Ohio State destroys Georgia Tech. They win by 38 points. Maryland beats James Madison, 24-6. And Alabama, close one here, but they moved past Coastal Carolina. Here's your updated bracket for the South region. 5 of the 8 teams won at home, and we move on to the West region. Washington holds off Minnesota 26-16. USC and Utah, a battle of Pac-12 rivals. Utah comes out on top again. They win 23-17. Clemson dominates Boise State. They put up almost 50 against the Broncos. Even bigger margin of victory, Oklahoma blanks UNLV 56-0. Big win for the Sooners trying to make a statement. KU moves past Wyoming 38-31. Arizona beats Fresno State. Those 2 matchups were both high scoring, Big 12 versus Mountain West. We see another Mountain West team in Air Force. They only scored 10, however, against Oregon State, who scored 21, and so the Beavers will move on facing Oregon. The in-state rivals will face off in the second round. Oregon moves past Cal 47-14. Here's your updated bracket for this one. Lots of Pac-12 teams left in this region, plus Clemson, Oklahoma college football Blue Bloods. In the East region, Georgia and Washington State, huge upset already. Washington State, the 16 seed, beats the Bulldogs 27-17 in Athens. And in this video a year ago, Georgia lost to the worst seeded team in the tournament, Nevada. And they just lost again to the worst seeded team in this tournament, Washington State. Deja vu for the Bulldogs. They really haven't been doing well in these videos. But we have to move on. Washington State will face North Carolina. The Tar Heels needed a 14-point comeback in the fourth quarter to move past Troy. Miami and Louisville, Big East rivals back in the day. The Hurricanes come out on top 37-34. Oklahoma State falls to Virginia Tech big by 22 points. The Hokies move past Oklahoma State. NC State beats Iowa State 22-14. We finally see a team win at home. LSU loses to Auburn. Another upset. This is an SEC matchup though. Auburn moves on. Northwestern moves past Tulane 33-22. And Florida State, a 15-2 upset. This region has been completely flipped on its head. In-state rivals. The animosity is high. You never know what's going to happen in these rivalries. And Florida, behind a big first half effort, they beat their in-state rivals, the Seminoles, 30-24. Here's a look at your bracket. NC State was the only team to successfully defend their home turf. Lots of upsets in this one, and this is what this video is all about. In the Midwest region though, South Alabama needed overtime to even get here, and they took the number 1 seed to overtime again. We almost saw yet another number 1 seed fall in the first round, but Texas was able to hold off the Jaguars 31-28. UCLA moves past Memphis pretty easily. K-State beats their in-conference rivals 31-24. Wisconsin wins over Notre Dame by 10. TAMU loses to SMU. New Mexico State and Ole Miss, the Rebels win by 3. Closer matchup than probably they wanted to. UTSA beats Iowa by 17. That Iowa offense did not come to play today, just like they did this season. It's funny seeing it replicated in this simulation. And then finally, the last game of the first round, Mizzou moves past their in-conference rivals 30-24. Here's your updated Midwest bracket. Only 3 upsets in this one, as now we move on to the second round. And for the second round, I'm not going to be showing the brackets after each region. I'm going to show it at the end. So the first game of the second round, Michigan beats West Virginia by 2 touchdowns. Tennessee holds off App State by 1 point. As you guys know, Appalachian State beat Penn State. They almost beat Tennessee, but they just couldn't get the job done. Ohio State moves past Kentucky, and Alabama holds off Maryland. Valiant effort by the Terps, but they just couldn't hold off their upset bid in the fourth quarter. Washington wins over Utah 40-28. Don't let that final score fool you though. It's 28-28 in the third quarter before Washington just went off in the fourth. Clemson and Oklahoma, 2 teams who were surefire playoff locks half a decade ago. Anyways, the Sooners double the Tigers' score. They win 34-17. Kansas loses to Arizona 31-42. And Arizona will move on to face Oregon, who win over their in-state rivals 48-14. Moving on to the East region. Remember, this region is the one that had a plethora of upsets, and here we see another one. The 16 seed continues their unlikely run to the round of 16. The Cougars win over the Tar Heels 22-16. Virginia Tech wins over Miami. Another Big East matchup for Miami after beating Louisville in the first round, but they just couldn't get the job done against the Hokies. NC State beats Auburn 31-24. And Northwestern beats Florida at home 25-21. Although not an upset by seed, could have been an upset by talent. As you can see, the overall rating of the teams, Florida B, Northwestern C+. Florida had the talent, they just couldn't get the job done on the road in Evanston. And finally, in the Midwest region, Texas holds off UCLA. K-State moves past Wisconsin. Ole Miss beats SMU by a touchdown. And Mizzou beats UTSA by 5 points. And so here's your Sweet 16 bracket. Doesn't really matter how we got here. 3 of the 4 regions seem pretty ordinary with a combination of seeds 1 through 5. But that East region, the bottom right hand of your screen, has anything but. The best seed is NC State at the number 6 seed, and the other 3 teams in that region are all double-seeded teams. And it's interesting, look at the South region. Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama were 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four in this video last year. The 4th team in that Final Four was Penn State, who's actually the number 4 seed in the South region. So had Penn State come out of their pod alive, we would have seen a complete rematch of the Final Four in this tournament video a year ago. Anyways, it's going to be a fun Sweet 16. Let's see the results in this round. Michigan shuts out Tennessee 35-0. J.J. McCarthy, 3 touchdowns, big performance by the Wolverines. Alabama and Ohio State. The Crimson Tide win 42-39, denying a comeback attempt by Ohio State. Ohio State scored 15 points in the fourth and still couldn't get the job done. 35 points scored by Alabama in the first half, and that just put Ohio State in too deep of a hole to dig themselves out of. K-State and Texas, the Wildcats stole this one from the Longhorns. They almost did in real life, but they did it in this simulation. They pull off the 5-1 upset, 31-27. And then Mizzou hangs on over Ole Miss 22-16. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, Washington beats Oklahoma 24-14. Oregon holds off their Pac-12 rival 28-21. Now in the East region, the region filled with upsets, but the 16th seeded Cougars, their unlikely Cinderella run comes to an end at the hands of the Hokies. They win in pretty dominant fashion, 45-13. In an even bigger margin, the Wolfpacks win over the Northwestern Wildcats. NC State wins 56-14, scoring all of those points in only 3 quarters. Brendan Armstrong, 6 touchdowns. Big performance by NC State. And here's your updated bracket. Michigan and Alabama will face off in the Peach Bowl, Washington and Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, K-State and Mizzou in the Cotton Bowl, and Virginia Tech and NC State. Who would have thought that those teams would have come out in that region alive? But anyways, they will face off in the Orange Bowl. So I'm actually going to be showing all of these games in full on my channel starting on the 18th. All of these games will be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Central. We're going to start with the Orange Bowl with Virginia Tech and NC State. Then we're going to have the Cotton Bowl on the 19th, the Fiesta Bowl on the 20th, and finally the Peach Bowl on the 21st with 2 college football blue bloods, Michigan and Alabama. Those teams will collide on the 21st. Moving on to the semifinal matchups, which will be on the 22nd and 23rd. The Rose Bowl will come first, and then the Sugar Bowl. And then on the 24th, mark your calendars at 5 p.m. Eastern, the National Championship game, and we'll see who wins in this 68-team March Madness tournament. Definitely going to be a fun one. If you stayed through this whole video, thank you so very much for watching. Comment down below which one of these 8 teams that you think will come out on top. It's definitely going to be a fun one. Lots of heavyweights still left in this tournament. But with that, it's been Fuqua Sports. Have a good one.